Good evening and welcome back to Everyday Man of God. It is great to be here once again. I appreciate your time. We'll start out with a little bit of humor this evening. I was beginning my podcast to get it going, and then my youngest son came and interrupted, and then after that, my father came and interrupted. So apparently I've got to put a sign outside that says, "Do not disturb" at this point in time. But they didn't know, so not mad at them. Not mad at the youngest and my father. They had no idea what I was doing. But that's real life for you. Things can happen. That's just the way it goes. I don't have a fancy schmancy studio in the fifth floor. Wait, fifth floor. Actually, that's funny because that used to be a crazy place back where I'm from. All right, so tonight we're going to talk a little bit about the United Nations. Yeah, I'm all tongue-twisted tonight with all the disturbances and interruptions. But sometimes you got to roll with it. So here we go. Not going to pretend, not going to fix it, not going to edit it. Well, I'm going to block out the part I got interrupted in, but we'll go from there. But tonight we're going to talk about the United Nations, and if you've listened to my other podcasts, you know that I've talked about the International Monetary Fund, I've talked about Bretton Woods Conference, I've even briefly talked about the beginning of World War I and the man who shot Archduke Ferdinand Franz there, and why, and my beliefs at that point. That was beginning of World War I in 1914. I forget what the date was. I want to say July, but I could be wrong. July 28th is what sticks out in my head. You can fact check me if you like. That's okay. I will not be offended. It's all right. But in my opinion, this whole one world order, new world order, this all started. The really last 100 years, the big push in 1944 with the Bretton Woods Conference, right after World War II, up in Fitzwilliam, New Hampshire. Now, that was where we get the United Nations, the International Monetary Fund. All of those things stem from that point in time. Even the World Health Organization, which I haven't talked about yet, that will be a podcast, but that came more out of the French side of things. I cannot remember the name of the organization that preceded the World Health Organization out of France. So, apologize for that. You know what? Go ahead and put it in the captions or comments. Speaking of which, French de Gaulle, Charles de Gaulle, oh, he became a communist, interestingly enough. Let's just be honest with that. But let's begin now. United Nations. Why do I talk about these organizations? Because they are all in some way or another tied to the Vatican, which is the Roman Catholic Church. One can argue with me, and that's fine, but you would be wrong. Well, you don't have actually physical proof. No, I do not. I do have the physical proof of who was involved in these organizations, and they all seem to be connected themselves to certain organizations. Too many coincidences. They're not coincidences anymore. This is a planned thing. This is a world takeover. This has been the goal, even with Woodrow Wilson, the socialist, with the League of Nations, which we didn't sign on to, thankfully. So a lot of those things are in play. A lot of these organizations, I'm repeating myself, are evil at the core of their foundation, and a lot of people don't want to talk about it. Probably because the Roman Catholic Church and the Vatican might send somebody to their house and assassinate them. I don't know. Much like Charles Chiniquet's case up there in Illinois, where the church ended up wanting him dead, and Lincoln, who actually was the lawyer for Charles Chiniquet. But that's another conversation. What is the United Nations? It is an intergovernmental organization. What does that mean? What does that mean? It just simply means intergovernmental is an agreement between two or more governments. NWO, New World Order, One World Order. Inter, it just means among or between those governments. Basically, between those governments is all that really is. I'm going to go back to time when I grew up in my area, my town. It's a backroom deal. In this case, it's right in front of our faces. And that was on June 26, 1945. Coincidental date there, 1945. And what I say about the Bretton Woods Conference is right at that point in time. Now, tonight I'm not actually going to go over all the founding countries in that particular case and every guy connected to it. That would be just you'd have to break it into part 1, part 2, part 3, you know what I mean? So we're going to focus on where the headquarters are. And why would I care about the headquarters? Nothing is by accident. Not a single thing. Like NATO, looks like NATO. That was signed on the anniversary date of the Ignatius of Loyola, the chief Jesuit who killed people to convert them to Catholicism and wanted to run the world. They wanted to run the world and control the world. And then you got NATO. So our first office with the United Nations is in Geneva. Let's talk briefly about Geneva. Geneva was ruled by the Roman Empire. Briefly Protestants after John Calvin, and back to Roman Catholics. Or Roman Catholicism, however you want to put it. Here's an interesting part. The coat of arms for Geneva still has part of the Roman Empire still on it. And the majority of Geneva identify as Catholic. But I thought the Roman Empire was dead. But you still have the coat of arms, and this happens to be one of the main locations for the United Nations. Well, gee, what just a shocker and a coincidence. It's just a coincidence. Well, we know how that theory works. Now, the next one we want to look at is Nairobi. The stock exchange, by the way, is located in Nairobi. Now, I'm sorry if I pronounced Nairobi wrong. If someone wants to correct me, that's fine too. In 1972, got to go back 50 years now. In 1972, the World Bank, and we've talked about the World Bank and who they're part of, they go all the way back to the Vatican and subsidiaries of them and the International Monetary Fund. They gave a loan to expand the airport. I wonder why. Remember, the World Bank, it's important to remember this. The World Bank came into being with the IMF, the International Monetary Fund. And with that became, also part of that was the International Development Foundation. International. We got to develop all these areas. Well, at least the areas that the Roman Catholic Church will take control of. The main religions are a mix of Protestants and Catholicism. It is a hotbed of one world religion. If you can hear all those, I don't know what those bugs are. We still didn't get insulation yet into this studio or this giant shed I call a studio now. But so if you hear that, I apologize. We're eventually going to get that fixed. I promise. Well, not fix the bugs. I mean, get this sealed up and insulated. But anyways, like I was saying, the main religions, I think I was talking about the main religions, are mixed Protestant and Catholicism. It's a hotbed of ideas of a one world religion interest. That's important to understand. The Roman Catholic Church, this is the best part, well, not the best, was the first to pillage that land. They were the first to pillage the land, and they will be in control of it until they hand it over willingly to the Antichrist. Next, we have Vienna. We know Vienna, if anybody does their world history, was under the Holy Roman Empire. It is very much said that way. That's the way they say it. That's the way it's always been in written documentations in every historical, not Stephen's historical records or the Baptist one or the Pentecostal one. No, the actual, not theologians, but the history, well, I was going to say philosophers, but anyways, all these type of professors and experts in these fields. So like I said before, we know they were under the Holy Roman Empire for 1,000 years until the 1800s. In fact, today, the major religion of Vienna is around 50% Roman Catholic. Well, then the other 49 should be Protestant. Oh, which point? No, 8 or something like that. That's 4%. We'll just call it 4. Well, we'll be conservative. We'll be nice. 5%. 5% Protestant. Now, Vienna has a long history of far-right Catholicism. An example would be the Christian Social Party. They were Catholic, and I'm not making this up, this is from their own literature, they were anti-Semite. Or they were anti-Semites. I apologize, without the plural. And some of the large corporations, some of the major players, their headquarters are there today. And remember this part now, important if you follow some of the stuff. They plan on being a, what? What kind of city are they going to be by 2050? If you know your Agenda 21s and everything like that. They're planning on being a smart city by 2050. You don't think that's a coincidence? So you got Geneva, you got Nairobi, you got Vienna here. Let's talk about The Hague. The Hague. You'll find that coming up in a number of other podcasts as well. Here is another city with many of the what? Large corporations headquartered there. You see a trend? If we start consolidating into certain areas to control the world, where will we put them? Although in The Hague, there's a small amount of self-identifying Roman Catholic and Protestants. They have a very high amount today. Now I'm talking about today, not then, but today, they have a very high amount of atheist or atheism, agnosticism, and secular humanism, anti-theism. And we're going to take a quick look at those last 4 in a second, actually. But remember, another one. The Hague is a place where you're headquartered in. The Hague. And I didn't forget New York City, and somebody's going to be out there going, what about New York City? We'll talk about that briefly. But these were not picked for a random reason. This is the plan for the future. These are locations on the map that have to be there for the end times, for the Antichrist. So the Roman Catholic Church has set this up. The Vatican has set this up before. The Roman Empire comes back. It has not left. I don't know how many times anyone can give you, that's the worst part. You can hand out all the evidence you want to the Roman Catholics, church members, and they're like, I don't see it, I don't see it, I don't see it. Because they don't want to see it. We're talking about atheism. That's just, for a bullet point, I guess, what is atheism? It's, I don't say lacking, but it's without a belief in God or gods in general, which is a lack of faith. They have a lack of faith in the existence of God at all. Now, there's going to be atheists that might complain on this God. Well, that's not what I believe. And atheism had a very certain structure to it, and then like all things, like religions, that atheism, in my opinion, is. It then forms all these offshoots, like the Roman Catholic Church decided to have Lutherans and Episcopalians and so forth. Well, atheism, same thing. You got the New Age atheisms, and I'm a diehard original atheism, and all these different things. I forget all the different. I used to know every one of them. They're different strains, but anyways, it all goes back to the same basic thing. No, it doesn't. It does. Just it does. I mean, you can argue what you want. Then you have agnosticism. Bible obviously preaches against that left and right, but they're without knowledge. They do not claim to know God exists. They don't say God doesn't exist. They don't claim to know God does exist. They believe in the adoption theory, but they need to see something to believe it. I don't know that it works if I can't see it. But their knowledge lacks faith. There's no faith, but except for in anything or only what they can see. In fact, Plato, one of the philosophers, or one of those philosophers, needed knowledge and proof And that is actually the inspiration of the Roman Catholic, Roman Empire Church. They say I have faith, but who do you have faith in? You have faith in the Pope that they can show you proof of these things. And you don't really know that you're saved because just to hedge your bet, you better do all these other things, all these rites, these works, all these things, just to hedge your bets now. Well, if you had faith, you wouldn't have to hedge your bets. If you know what the Bible says, you wouldn't have to worry about you're saved by grace, not by anything that you've done. Therefore, you can't boast about how great you are, because you're not. Then you got secular humanism. Again, this is a bullet point, or a long bullet point, I guess. They believe that God does not exist. But they've alluded to this fact, and but there might be something they go, that's not true. Well, they have alluded to this, or at least said this, in the now I'm trying to think of it. The Humanist Manifestos of 1973, which is when I was born. I just gave away my age. 1933, and they had another revised, I think, version in the early 2000s. So you can just go back all the way to 1933. Or that there is not significant evidence or proof, a little bit of agnosticism there, of God. They rely on self-knowledge of what they, in their limited wisdom, can prove. Lack of faith, or the desire to even have faith. What does Proverbs 3:5 say? Lean not unto thine own understanding. But that's okay. They don't believe in God anyway, so they're not going to have to follow that scripture. They don't believe in God. So they don't believe in being accountable for their actions. They're fine. Now let's move on to New York City. That's our last one. New York City. I think there was a commercial back in the, early 90s. I don't even know when it was. Where was that made? New York City. So. All right, New York City. I know you thought I forgot to go to them, but I didn't. The United Nations. That's headquartered in New York City. I've had some interesting opinions on this one. I think they're going to be a little bit different than the others, but they are headquartered also, the United Nations, in New York City. We all know that. And before it was renamed, actually, it would have been New Amsterdam. New Amsterdam. And what is the seat of government of the United Nations? Or where? The Hague. And where's The Hague? Where's Amsterdam? I guess that's just probably a coincidence. Well, The Hague obviously is one of the locations for the UN. The Holy Roman Empire ruled Amsterdam for hundreds of years. Currently, the Roman Catholic Church is the largest organized religion in Amsterdam. And Amsterdam is also a large mecca of corporations. Do you see what happens here? We have the Roman Catholic Church with the Vatican. They're embedded with the largest corporations in the world and part of the largest World Health Organization, and they will control you, put in the controls for the Antichrist of which will come. Come on, folks. It's not hard to see it. It's not hard to see it. One might find it interesting that the UN consists of 193 countries. Now, I don't really get a lot into this, but the numerology aspect of this touches in the New Age area, which is clearly dangerous, but there's some interesting things there. I am not sure how one cannot understand this. Some have known for many years and some have not, but we keep on, being disillusioned by these things. The illusion of democracy. The disillusion of a one world church. What is a one world church in unity? It's a one world order, a new world order. Bible believing Christians were persecuted then. They'll be persecuted now. And I do believe there will be fake Catholics that will be persecuted. You have the Vatican. You have the United Nations. You have NATO, which will be under United Nations. You have World Health Organization. All one entity. I don't have it in front of me. I wish I did. When I talked about NATO and or the International Monetary Fund, Bretton Woods Conference was to create a one world order. So they, a new world order is just a conspiracy upon them right-wing people and those fundamental Christians, and you're full of malarkey. You're a moron. You're an idiot, and you're deluding yourself. Forget about who coined this whole world, the word New World Order. Well, you don't have to forget about it. You can look it up if you want. But you can't argue the fact that it's there, a control. What do you want to call it? World domination? We'll call it world domination. If you don't like New World Order, if you play the little Axis and Allies game, it's a global world order. One controls all. And when it comes, it will be what? It won't be an old world order. Although, one can argue it would be because it was the Roman Empire coming back to take its rightful place, even though it never really left. It's been controlling through the Vatican. The Antichrist will come up, and here we are. And we have New World Order. How do you not see it? How do you not realize in the end times, United Nations will be in control of the Roman Catholic Church, which is the Holy Roman Empire, like I said. And there will be, in my opinion, the empires of Turkey and Jerusalem. You will not buy or sell, says the UN. Revelation 16:17, even though Revelation didn't say UN, didn't say the United Nations. And it's tough to have a United Nations because all those United Nations will become under one control. Was it Matthew 24:7? And I'm just saying off the top of my head. I don't know if I'm right on the actual verse. Please check me up. Where's my Bible? I got it way over there. I don't want to walk away from here. Oh, here it is. You're gonna hear noise in the background. Let me just pull off the page. Pull off the page. That's not it. Matthew 24:7, because I don't want to mislead you wrong. I'm just thinking it's 24:8, maybe 7. 24:7. You get to hear me flip pages through. Oh yeah. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilence and earthquakes in divers places. All these are the beginning of sorrows. All these nations will one day unite, or what's left of them. I think New York City will be just really an outpost for this part of the world. I do not believe the United States of America is going to be any factor at all in doing anything worthwhile in the end times. We are at the end. We've come full cycle. I don't understand how it can't be clearly obvious what's going on. The United Nations is corrupt. United Nations was only to control the world. It's funny how the Holy See doesn't have actually a seat at the United Nations. They're an honorary guest. Well, they don't need an actual seat there because they already control all the other seats that are already there. Well, this was not a very long podcast, and I kept this under a half an hour, but it's time we woke up. And there are many people have woken up for the wrong reasons, unfortunately, but they've seen the corruption, but yet they still don't see that God is the way. Jesus is the way, the truth, the light. I just talk so fast. I mispronounce some things. I mean, I apologize for that, but I don't want to get too heated. But at the same time, you got to understand. We keep thinking, oh, we're gonna fix it. We're gonna fix it. You got guys like Glenn Beck who are very smart about political things, but he doesn't see this part of it, even though he pretends to talk about God and understand the spirituality of things. Sorry, Glenn, you're wrong. You're right about George Soros and all the other things. Don't get me wrong. You are right there. Dan Bongino, who's a Roman Catholic, dude, you're right about what's going on in the governments, but you keep on not understanding why they are where they are. See, everybody knows what the outcome is. They know what's going on, but nobody wants to talk about the origins of. They only go back maybe 10, 15 years of the origins of. No, you got to go way back for the origins of. Mark Levin, very fine man, very smart, knows what he's talking about, all these things. But again, when you are not truly a born-again Christian and you are not truly looking at it from a Bible perspective view, then you are not completely understanding. And I'm going to get a lot of dislikes, and maybe I'll get some likes, and maybe I'll get some negative comments. I don't know. But I'm not here to be somebody's friend. I'll make friends if I can make friends along the way, that's fine. But my point here is just give you the truth. If you don't like the truth, that's fine. It's not about hate speech or anything like that. My job, not a job that I pay for, I don't pay for this. My job is to get this information out there. What kind of person am I if I don't put it out there? If I don't say something, that can help someone, save someone, I don't mean I'm saving their soul, but to help them. If I can't do that, and I can't put out the truth, no matter how it comes back at me, then I'm a failure. Whether I hurt somebody's feelings, it doesn't matter. I never intend on hurting anybody's feelings. My only intent is the truth. And some will say, oh, as you see it. No, as the Bible sees it. And even as the documents, you can find the signatures of the people who are behind things. We've talked about this before, Roman Catholicism, socialism. Bam, it's all the way through. It's getting to be too late. The doors are closing. And if you used to be a drinker back in the day, what happened? What happened? Because we're at closing time. We're at last call. Them lights are flickering. And when it's time to go home, you ain't going home. You're going to hell. Don't do that. Why? For a momentary earthly satisfaction of selfishness that is fleeting? You want to pay for that for eternity? I appreciate your time tuning in this evening, as I always do. And as always, I think I put it in the description if you want to write to the podcast program. It is in Englewood, Tennessee. I'm not in Englewood, Tennessee, but the P.O. Box is. So in Englewood, Tennessee, P.O. Box 465. And the zip code is 37329. I should have had that written down ahead of time. But if you want to send any hate mail or love mail, feel free. I promise to answer every single one of them. Now, I won't say I'm going to answer them all the very next day and have 100 of them out the door, but I will answer them. I will answer them to the best of my abilities. And with that, God bless and good evening.